Hello, this is Arcades, and welcome to a little bit of a building tips and tricks video. And yeah, with the new pulleys, I figured some people might be wanting to make some cranes using them. So I thought I'd come over to some control tips for building cranes. It's mainly about the controls. Mainly about the controls. Yeah. So, anyways. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you like what you watch. If you do, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you think. Helps out the channel immensely. And yeah, let's take a look at these. Okay, so we're in the workbench here, and we're going to look at these simple cranes that I have made for this demonstration. Now first, let's understand what we're looking at. We have two small cranes set up here. They use the two, each one has a demonstration of the two main types. You have your velocity pivots, which I have on this side here, and then you have your robotic pivots over there. Now each pivot has its advantage and disadvantage. The velocity pivots, their main advantage is they can do a full 360-degree spin on their point of axis. So in other words, this will spin around and around and around as long as you hold the button. So their input comes from a velocity speed. Now all the parts that would be considered for this demonstration a velocity pivot is, well, the compact velocity pivot, the regular velocity pivot, and then you have the turret rings. Now also a part of here, I've got the compact slider. Because it uses a speed input, it will follow under the same input rules. So I thought I'd mention that as a side note here. We have over here, we have the robotic pivots. These guys, their advantage is precision. They get that precision at the cost of flexibility. And that is because that's the thing about the velocity pivots, is they have flexibility, but they have an issue with precision. These things have precision, but lack of flexibility. And what I mean by flexibility is they only have, instead of the 360-degree field that the velocity pivots can cover, these guys only have 180 degrees total. And they generally, when you place them, you get 90 degrees in either direction from that placement. So if you put in the input along the positive and negative, will change the direction of which they move. Your placement on there doesn't really matter other than just making sure your rotation direction is the way you want it. And they use the arrows to show you how the inputs will affect that. On the velocity pivots, it's the same thing. A positive input will increase the speed along the positive side, and a negative input will increase the speed in the negative direction. Flexibility versus precision here. Now, the thing with the velocity pivots, like I said, you're inputting the speed of which they spin. So that means when you remove that input, they will come to a speed, they will slow down and come to the thing. Now, however, as long as they're receiving an input, they will follow the input. This is a little bit of an issue if you want to use a seat with them. And there's a way you can fix that. The velocity pivots, or the robotic pivots, will actually just take the input from a control and head to that position. So if you put in 0.5, it's going to go to 50% of its turning ability, positive and negative, depending on which one you put in. So, like I said, if you put in 0.5, it's going to go to 45 degrees of the positive. If you put in negative 0.3, it's going to go to like 30 degrees on the negative side. So it's going to match what you look at. However, so it's trying to match there. The input method for this is a little bit different. Obviously, they're two different streams. Now, you can actually hook both of these methods up straight to your control seat or handle, so any of the seats, without a microcontroller. You just need to manipulate some settings on the control handles, seats, whatever you're using to control it. So that is mainly what I wanted to cover here. I went over all the basics so you can get advantage, disadvantage, and why you would use either one. So if you want to use a velocity pivot, I'm going to show you the intended results that you want to use. So if we come over here and I give you a demonstration, I'm using A&D to spin it, and you see spinning all around, doing what it's supposed to. I got them inverted too. Now we come over here to this one. As you can see, it's slow, but it will stop very easily. And you can tell it what position you want to get it to. However, as you can see, it stops at 90, get 180 degrees over to the other side, there you go. So how do you get these to work with just the thing and no microcontrollers of that nature? Well, first of all, for the velocity pivot, because this is the more interesting one. So when you're looking at the seats and you come over here, you will notice they have a sensitivity bar. When you go to hit the seats with that sensitivity, at every tick, it is adding that percentage to the seat's total while you're holding it. So you hold the button, it will go 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 until it hits the max, which is 1. If you were to set this in 0.5, it would add 0.5, 0.5, and then it maxes out at 1. So that's why 10%, it has a smoother, slower buildup on things. If we take this up here, I've got the sensitivity to 100%, so that means it's going to go immediately to 1. So why not just leave it at 10%? Well, the problem is if you leave it at 10% and let go of the button, it gradually decreases every tick by 0.1. Or, yeah, 0.1. So what would you get when we get down to here? I'll just reset it back. So at 0.10, or at 10%, you get this slow whirring, but as you can see, when I let go of the button, it continues to move past that. We come back in here, reset the sensitivity back up to 100%. And you see, it goes straight up to the speed, but it stops also immediately. Now you're like, well, this thing's really fast. You notice everything's going crazy on there. How do we slow it down? Well, we can't change the thing, but I figured you can do this if you want to slow it down to make it more manageable. And while I said technically you can do this without a microcontroller, and I just showed you you can slow down in multiple ways. You can actually come into the settings of this and literally, change the power down and the gear ratio. But if you don't want to flub with that and make it more variable, you can also put down a throttle and a multiply lever. A multiply block. Put that into the input of the thing. Take your control, which was, we were using A&D, put that into the multiply, and then use the 0 to 1 scale that's on the throttle. And we're going to put down the sensitivity of that thing to 34. And we will put it at 4. And you can see now it's a more manageable speed. Bring this down some more. It's even slower. What you're doing is multiplying the input to the thing by whatever's on the throttle. So it's still activating at 100% and deactivating at 100%. But you're actually multiplying that 1 by what's on there, and that's the speed. So we're multiplying 1 by 0.5, so it's only going half speed that it could possibly do. And this way you can customize the speed in this manner, even if you wanted to make a more permanent speed, so it doesn't go too crazy. I was trying to operate the crane. Yeah, so now we have the robotic pivots. This one, it actually does not matter as much on the sensitivity, because once you let go, it should stop. Because what you're doing is you're setting the target for it. Now, however, there is a setting you got to change for this as well to get it to work without issues. Okay, so we're in here for the controls of the robotic pivot. The thing you got to change on here is, if you look here, the default is reset. Here I got it sticky. The difference between reset and sticky is sticky holds whatever you left the value at when you let your hand off the button to tell it to turn. And what it does is that, so if you hold it, it go 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 at the sensitivity, like I described at the other one, and it'll stop when you let go because it has met its rotation target. If you leave it on reset, it goes out and then comes back because the seat will reset back to 0. And it will follow the seat as it's going back. So it's going -10, -10, you know, -1, -1, -1. That percentage. So if you want it to stay in position, you have to set it to sticky. Now, and that difference would be, set it here, and you can see set difference. I'm holding it over, you see it goes over, and then I'll let go, and it's coming back on its own. So, if you put it on sticky, it will stay in position when you let go. Now, as far as the sensitivity is concerned, as I described on the with the velocity pivots, it changes, like I said, it changes how fast it goes through those rotation points. So at 10%, that means it's going 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 every tick. And you have the slow progression to your target. And when you let go, on sticky, it says, oh, I'm in the position I need to be at. Okay, I'm done. And it sits there at that value the entire time. So the thing sits there. Okay, so if you set the sticky at, or the sensitivity at 100%, and you hit the button, like I'm just tapping the button between A and D. You notice it's not actually stopping at the center. So it will go all one way or the other. But you bring it back down, that sensitivity down. You could even go 1%. Whoops. However, as you can see, going 1% makes it really, really slow. Because it's just adding 0.01, 0.01, 0.01 every tick. So you adjust it up to, like, say, 3%. And you see it's a little bit faster. Now, if you want to control the speed in other ways as well, you can, again, adjust the pivots. In the case of robotics, they can actually, you can adjust the speed on these things. So if we put this back to its default of 10% on sticky, much faster. So, yeah, that is basically about it. These rules for this also work for these three right here: the door hinge, the robotic hinge, and the robotic pivot. They all follow the same rules. This one is also the same way for the target acquisition, just like the velocity or the compact slider follows the same rules as those. So this is trying to match a target. So for whatever reason, if you decide to use this with your crane, keep that in mind. Yeah, so I thought I'd just go over quick schemes that you can do. Okay, so yeah, I thought I'd cover different two main ways you're gonna create a crane and how you can use a control seat of some manner, whether it's the handles, the seats, the space backpack. It's your choice on how you can control the cranes, and depending on the type of pivot you want to use to control the crane. So yeah, hope this is helpful. Hope you enjoyed what you watched. If you did, you know the deal, you know the spiel. This is Arcades signing out. Have yourself a good day. Whee!